The Great Gatsby is a 1925 novel by American writer Scott Fitzgerald, set in the Jazz Age on Long Island, near New York City. The novel depicts first-person narrator Nick Garraway's interactions with mysterious millionaire J. Gatsby and Gatsby's obsessions to reunite with his former lover, Dice Buchanan. Teacher Karigo Njigi has analyzed this beloved novel from North America, USA, with the aim of gaining knowledge on the subject of literature in English Tanzania, as well as world in general. Dear listener, I analyzed various works of literature around the world. Welcome Tanzania, East Africa, Shinyanga region. The Great Gatsby tells the story of J. Gatsby, a self-made millionaire, and his pursuit of Dice Buchanan, a wealthy young woman whom he loved in his youth. Set in 1920s New York, the book is narrated by Nick Carraway. The title character of The Great Gatsby is a young woman around 30 years old who rose from an impoverished childhood in rural North Dakota to become fabulous wealth. However, he achieved this lofty goal by participating in organizing crime, including disputing illegal alcohol and trading in stolen securities. We learn from Nick about Gatsby's true origin. His real name is James Gass. He comes from North Dakota. At the age of 17, he changed his name to J. Gatsby after meeting a rich mining prospector called Dan Cody. That's why Daz realized that Gatsby had not inherited his wealth and had in actual acquired it illegal. She lost interest in him and remained loyal to Tom simply because he was made of old man. Dice chooses Tom in the end because his wealth is secure. She likely recognized that Gatsby could lose his wealth at any time, and she's not willing to risk her privileged status or luxury lifestyle. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, portrayed 6 main themes. Number 1 is greed. Number 2, love. Number 3, violence. Number 4, betrayal. Number 5, corruption, and the American dream. The author of this novel reminds us through his novel, The Great Gatsby, is that past cannot be repeated and everybody has to move forward in life. The Great Gatsby deeply portrayed ideas of American dream through its display of wealth and interaction among its characters. The American dream and its initial status as symbol of hope for success, and a better life is blurred into a symbol of getting rich. This idea, this dream, is essentially corrupted. The Great Gatsby theme is the futility of American dream. This theme is explored through the use of symbols and plot points. The moral lesson of The Great Gatsby is that the American dream is lies or illusory. Gatsby's dream was to be with Dice, but even after he attained her lives, he was unable to be with her. Meanwhile, the people that had men like Dice and Tom could not achieve happiness. Okay, let us proceed. One of the most lessons from the great Gatsby is that true love cannot be bought. Gatsby, a self-made man, amasses fortune in an attempt to win back the love of dice, but his wealth ultimately proves to be hindrance rather than a help. The Great Gatsby tells the story of the ill-fated love between J. Gatsby and Dice Buchanan, but this is very much a love story of this time, reflecting the life for today, hedonism of jazz age. Also, the author employed the figure of speech like symbolism. There are 5 symbols in the Great Gatsby, with the setting of West Egg, East Egg, the seat, the underworld, and the valley of ashes. The first 2 places symbolize the rich who are nestled in comfort as old man and new man. Gatsby is a fable about betrayal of others and of our own ideas. The concept that a new world in America is even possible, that it won't simply reproduce the follies and vices of the old world, is already an illusion, a paradise lost before it has even been conceived. In spring 1922, Nick Calloway, a young alumnus from the Midwest and the First World War veteran, journeyed to New York City to obtain employment as born salesman. He lent bungalows in the Long Island village of West Egg, next to luxury estate inhabited by J. Gatsby, multimillionaire who hosts dancing solely. One evening, Nick dined with a distant cousin, Dice Buchanan, in the old man town of Egg. Dice is married to Tom Buchanan, formerly a Yale football star whom Nick knew during his college days. The couple has recently relocated from Chicago to a mansion directly across the bay from Gatsby Estate. There, Nick encounters Jordan Baker, an excellent flapper and golf champion who is childhood friend of Dice. Jordan confides to Nick that Tom keeps a mistress, Mital Wilson, who brazenly telephones him at his home and who lives in the Valley of Ashes. Sparrowing refused damp that even Nick sees Gatsby standing alone on his lawn, staring at a green right across the bay. Days later, Nick reluctantly accompanied a drunken and agitated Tom to New York City by train, a route they stop at the garage inhabited by mechanic George Wilson and his wife Wilson. Wilson joined them, and the trio proceeded to a small New York apartment, and Tom has retended for Tyler's with her guest arrived, and the party ensues, which end with Tom slapping Wilson and breaking her nose after she mentioned Dice. One morning, Nick receives a formal invitation for a party at Gatsby mansion. Once there, Nick is impressed that he recognizes no one and begins drinking heavily until he encounters Jordan. While chatting with her, he is approached with a man who introduces himself as the J. Gatsby and insists that both he and Nick served in the said infantry during the war. Gatsby attempts to ingratiate himself with Nick, and when Nick leaves the part, he notices Gatsby watching him. In late July, Nick and Gatsby have lunch at a Speakeasy. Gatsby tries impressing Nick while he tells of his war, heroism, and his Oxford days. Afterward, Nick meets Jordan again at the Plaza Hotel. Jordan reveals that Gatsby and Dice met around 1917. When Gatsby was an officer in the American Expedition Forces, they fell in love. But when Gatsby was deployed overseas, Dice reluctantly married Tom. Gatsby hopes that his newfound wealth and dazzling parties Gatsby uses Nick to stage the union with Dice, and the two embark upon an affair. In September, Tom discovers the affair when Dice carelessly addresses Gatsby with unabashed intimacy in front of him. Later, at a Plaza Hotel suite, Gatsby and Tom argue about the affair. Gatsby insists Dice declare that she never loved Tom. Dice claims she loves Tom. Gatsby upsetting boss. Tom reveals Gatsby is a swindler whose money comes from bootlegging alcohol. Upon hearing this, Dice chooses to stay with Tom. Tom scornful tells Gatsby to drive her home, knowing that Dice will never leave him. While returning to East Egg, Gatsby and Dice drive by Wilson's garage, and their car strips, killing her instantly. Later, Gatsby reveals to Nick that Dice was driving the car, but that intended to take the blame was the accident to protect her. Nick urges Gatsby to flee to avoid prosecution, but he refuses after Tom tells George that Gatsby owned the car. That trunk mile disheartened, George assumes the owner of the vehicle must be Clover. George fatally shoots Gatsby in his mansion swimming pool, then kills himself. Several days after Gatsby's murder, his father Henry Gatz arrives for the specially attended funeral. After Gatsby's death, Nick comes to hate New York and decide that Gatsby dies Tom and he were all Midwesterners and suited to Eastern life. Nick encounters Tom and initially refuses to shake his hand. Tom admits he was one of who told George that Gatsby owned the vehicle that killed Wilson. Before returning to the Midwest, Nick returned to Gatsby mansions and stares across the bay at the green light emanating from the end of Dice's dock. At the end of the great Gatsby is revealed to have been boat rich. Dice abandons him. Tom shoots him and his funeral is specially attended. Nick reflected on the story in the last few paragraphs, noting that Gatsby built all of his wealth and started the service of reuniting with his lost love, Dice. J. Gatsby is shot to death in the swimming pool of his mansion of George Wilson, a gas station owner who believed Gatsby to be the hit-and-run driver who killed his wife, Wilson. That is the end of the story. Thank you for listening to me.